The Roman Empire did not collapse suddenly. It expanded methodically. After 27 BCE, under Augustus, Rome entered what historians later called the Pax Romana: peace, stability, growth. By 117 CE, under Emperor Trajan, the empire reached its greatest territorial extent. From Britain to Mesopotamia, from the Rhine to North Africa. But size was not just geography. It was responsibility. Each new province required roads, garrisons, administrators, supply chains. Rome believed expansion solved problems. More land meant more taxes. More soldiers meant more security. But expansion also increased delay. Orders traveled weeks, sometimes months. Power existed in Rome. Control did not. The system assumed one thing: that growth would always outrun complexity. It never questioned scale. That assumption would become fatal. Rome did not pay for war once. It paid forever. By the 2nd century, the empire maintained over 30 permanent legions, roughly 300,000 soldiers, not including auxiliaries. Soldiers needed pay, grain, equipment, pensions. The empire no longer fought short wars. It guarded borders. Fortifications stretched thousands of kilometers. Hadrian's Wall alone required constant manpower and logistics. Military spending consumed the budget, but taxes were politically dangerous. So Rome relied on extraction. From provinces far from the center, Egypt supplied grain. Gaul supplied taxes. Spain supplied silver. The empire became dependent on distant inputs. Any disruption traveled inward. Power looked centralized. Costs were not. Rome was rich, but it was expensive. By the late 2nd century, Rome faced a problem it could not conquer. Revenue stopped growing. Costs did not. The state responded by manipulating currency. Under Emperor Septimius Severus, soldiers' pay was increased significantly. To afford it, silver content in coins was reduced. This continued for decades. By the mid-3 RD century, the denarius had lost most of its silver. Coins circulated, but trust eroded. Prices rose. Wages followed slowly. The economy did not collapse instantly. It distorted. Money still moved, but it meant less each year. Rome did not invent inflation, but it normalized it. The system survived by dilution, not reform. As the empire grew, bureaucracy multiplied. More officials, more layers, more distance between decision and consequence. Provincial governors gained autonomy. Military commanders gained leverage. The center depended on loyalty it could not monitor. Corruption increased not because Romans were worse, but because oversight failed. Taxes were collected unevenly. Records were inconsistent. The state reacted by demanding more, not by fixing structure. Control weakened as administration expanded. Rome governed too much to govern well. Between 235 and 284 CE, Rome experienced nearly 50 years of instability. Over 20 emperors ruled in that period. Many died violently. This was not chaos from invasion. It was systemic overload. Armies proclaimed emperors. Regions acted independently. The empire fractured under its own weight. Communication delays became political risks. By the time Rome reacted, events had moved on. Power became reactive, not directive. The system no longer coordinated itself. Rome governed too much to govern well. Emperor Diocletian did not try to save the old system. He replaced it. The empire was divided into administrative units. Then divided again. Civil and military power were separated. Taxes were fixed. Occupations were inherited. Price controls were imposed in 301 CE. They failed, but the goal was clear. Freeze the system. Diocletian understood scale was the enemy. His reforms stabilized the empire, but at a cost. Flexibility disappeared. The empire survived, but it could no longer adapt. Under Constantine, the empire continued, but it changed character. The capital moved east. Administration grew heavier. The state relied less on markets, more on compulsion. Economic mobility declined. Local autonomy vanished. Rome still existed, but it no longer expanded effectively. Maintenance replaced ambition. The system worked, only as long as pressure stayed constant. It never did. By the 5th century, Western Rome was overstretched. Revenue declined. Defense costs remained. Local elites stopped cooperating. The state could not enforce compliance everywhere. In 476 CE, the Western Roman emperor was deposed. There was no final battle, no single collapse, just a system too large to sustain itself. Rome did not fall because it was weak. It fell because it was vast. The Roman Empire did not lose control overnight. It lost alignment. Distance broke accountability. Scale erased feedback. Maintenance replaced innovation. The system survived long after it stopped working well. That is the lesson. Empires do not collapse when they fail. They collapse when they cannot adjust. Rome was powerful, but power without control is temporary, and scale always demands a price.